There's been something operating beneath the surface of your entire existence that you've never quite identified, and it's been silently constructing the world you experience moment by moment. It's not about how you act or what you think, or even the core convictions you hold about yourself and the world around you. What's really running the show is the way you observe everything. The reality is that countless people remain locked in repetitive patterns, not because existence itself is particularly challenging or unfair, but because they've been interpreting their experiences through an identical framework for such an extended period that it's become invisible to them. What nobody bothered to mention before now is this fundamental truth. When you transform your lens of perception, the entire terrain of your lived experience transforms right along with it, instantaneously and without exception. Let me paint you a picture that illustrates this perfectly. Imagine two separate individuals walking into the exact same room at the exact same moment, encountering identical lighting conditions, identical temperature, identical people scattered throughout the space, identical furniture and decorations surrounding them. And yet, despite occupying the same physical coordinates, one person immediately recognizes opportunity and possibility wherever they look, while the other person instinctively identifies threat and danger at every turn. One individual feels elevated and inspired by the environment, while the other feels diminished and compressed by those same surroundings. One person experiences expansion and potential for growth in that moment, while the other experiences restriction and limitation pressing in from all sides. They're standing in the same environment, breathing the same air, but they're living in entirely different realities. Not because the external circumstances differ in any measurable way, but purely because of the internal lens through which each person is filtering and interpreting what's happening around them. And here's where this gets absolutely fascinating and begins to shift from interesting concept into profound realization. Quantum physics demonstrates conclusively that this isn't just some poetic metaphor or inspirational way of thinking about human experience. This is literal, measurable, scientific fact. Your perception, which is really just your focused awareness directed in a particular direction, isn't some passive receiving mechanism that just takes in information from the world around you. It's actually generative in nature. It actively shapes reality. It influences the field of probability. It participates in creating what becomes manifest. And the more consistently and repeatedly you observe reality through one specific lens or framework, the more powerfully the universe reorganizes its fundamental structure to align with and match that particular frequency you're broadcasting. This is precisely why your life can feel like you're stuck on repeat, experiencing the same situations and patterns cycling through again and again. Variations on a theme you can't quite articulate but recognize deeply in your bones. It's because you're engaging with existence from the same energetic frequency and state of being, and the external world keeps reflecting that state back to you like a perfect mirror. But here's the genuinely exciting news that changes everything. That repeating cycle isn't permanently locked in place. It's not your destiny. And it's not something you're cursed to experience forever. And in the journey we're taking together right now, you're going to begin understanding exactly how to initiate that shift, not through forcing or struggling or grinding away at changing your circumstances, but simply by altering the fundamental way you observe absolutely everything in your experience. We were all raised in a culture and society that taught us to believe reality is fixed and unchanging, that what we perceive with our senses is simply what exists objectively, that physical matter is the foundational substance of everything, and that human awareness and consciousness is just some kind of secondary phenomenon that emerges from material processes but doesn't really affect anything. But contemporary quantum theory completely dismantles and dissolves that outdated belief system. And when you really let this understanding land in your consciousness at every level, not just intellectually but experientially, the fundamental particles that compose your entire world exist in what scientists call a superposition state of possibility, meaning they don't actually take definite shape or position until the moment they're observed by a conscious awareness. This isn't fringe science or new age speculation or wishful thinking dressed up in scientific language. This is the observer effect, one of the most rigorously tested and consistently validated principles in all of quantum mechanics, which means this profound truth. The world doesn't exist separately from you as some independent objective reality. It literally becomes real. It crystallizes from possibility into actuality through the act of your observation and participation in it. And here's the aspect that remains hidden from most people's awareness, operating beneath their conscious recognition. You're always, continuously, without pause, observing reality, even when that observation is happening completely unconsciously, without your deliberate awareness or intention. Every automatic reaction you have to situations, every expectation you carry about how things will unfold, every emotional pattern that's been carved into your nervous system from your personal history and past experiences, all of those unconscious processes are forms of observation. And those habitual, subconscious, automated observations that run in the background of your awareness, they're actively collapsing the field of infinite possibility into your specific timeline again and again, moment after moment, day after day. You believe in your conscious mind that you're simply watching reality unfold before you like a movie screen. But what if the actual relationship is reversed? What if it's reality itself that's responding to and reflecting back the quality and frequency of your observation? Not in some fearful way that puts all responsibility and blame on you for every challenging circumstance, but in a way that reveals something genuinely powerful and liberating about your fundamental nature. Life is continuously reflecting back to you the version of yourself that you continue to recognize and resonate with emotionally, energetically, and subconsciously, whether you're aware of it or not. Let me pose some questions that might illuminate where your observation has been focused without your conscious awareness. How frequently do you catch yourself anticipating disappointments and letdowns before they've even manifested in your experience? How many times have you positioned yourself in front of a mirror actively searching for imperfections and flaws instead of simply seeing the truth of who you are? How often do you check your phone, scroll through your email inbox, review your bank account balance, not with a sense of trust and openness to what's there, but with anxiety and bracing yourself for bad news? That automatic scanning for problems and rehearsing worst case scenarios, that's observation in action. And it carries much more significance than just being a mental habit or personality quirk. It has actual weight and substance and influence. Not only spiritually in terms of your inner state, not only emotionally in terms of your feelings and mood, but on a genuine quantum level in terms of how probability waves collapse into manifest reality. Because whatever you witness and accept and recognize as real begins to crystallize and solidify into the specific version of reality that forms and takes shape in your immediate experience. Here's what keeps most people trapped in the same repeating loop without understanding why nothing seems to change despite their efforts. They genuinely try to cultivate optimism and maintain positive thinking. They make sincere attempts to visualize their desired future in detail. They even engage regularly in manifestation practices and techniques they've learned from books or videos or courses. But the fundamental lens through which they observe their lives is still completely tinted and colored by scarcity consciousness, fear-based thinking, and outdated programming that was installed in their subconscious minds years or decades ago. So even when they're consciously reaching for something new and different and better, their deeper attention and their emotional state and their energetic frequency remain rooted in identification with the old self, the past version of who they've been. And the quantum field responds to and reflects that deeper signal rather than the surface level desires. You can't successfully enter and embody a new reality while you're still perceiving and interpreting everything through the eyes and the nervous system and the emotional. But here's the transformative question that changes everything when you really sit with it. What actually shifts and transforms in your lived experience when you begin observing from a completely different state of being? That's the absolute core of what we are exploring and diving into together in this journey. Because there's a reality available to you right now, an entirely new frequency of experience that's been hidden from your awareness, not because it's actually out of reach or reserved for special people or requires years of practice to access, but simply because you haven't yet attuned your perception to recognize and receive it. And the moment you align your lens of observation with that higher frequency, reality itself starts to bend and morph and rearrange itself in ways that will absolutely astonish you when you first witness it happening. But I'm not just offering you abstract concepts or inspiring words here. I'm going to guide you through the actual mechanism and process of how this works. In the next part of our exploration together, we are going to dive deep into how your focus doesn't just shape your internal thoughts and feelings, but actually shapes physical form and manifests circumstances in the material world. You'll discover through direct understanding that purposeful, conscious observation isn't merely a shift in mindset or a different way of thinking. It's literally a pivot point between different timelines and probable futures that all exist simultaneously in the quantum field. Stay present and engaged with what we are uncovering here. This isn't just motivational inspiration designed to make you feel good temporarily. This is the actual blueprint of quantum creation, the mechanics of how consciousness and matter interact and influence each other. And you're about to reconnect with and remember the part of yourself that already knows how to consciously participate in building the reality you desire. If something inside your awareness is already awakening right now, even if it's subtle and you can't quite articulate it yet, declare it with intention in this moment. I consciously choose to observe differently from this point forward. This isn't just a nice sounding statement or affirmation you repeat mechanically. It's a genuine directive sent out into the quantum field, and the field is always, without exception, responding to and organizing itself around your most consistent signals and frequencies. You've heard plenty of people say that focus matters, that where attention goes, energy flows, that you should concentrate on what you want rather than what you don't want. But what nobody really explained to you in a way that makes practical sense is what your focus actually does at a fundamental level, what mechanism is operating when you direct your attention somewhere. Because focus isn't just about paying attention to something or thinking about it consciously. It's energetic ignition, it's the spark that sets creation in motion. And once you truly realize and understand how your attention interacts with and influences the quantum field of infinite possibility, your entire understanding of reality and thought and consciousness will transform permanently and irreversibly. In the comments right now, drop one word that captures the energy or quality you're choosing to carry forward into your life from this moment. Maybe it's alignment, maybe it's ease, maybe it's power, maybe it's trust, maybe it's something completely unique to your personal journey. Let that single word be a small but profound declaration, a signal you're sending out like planting a quantum seed, not just in this comment section or this community space, but broadcasting into the actual quantum field itself. Focus operates as frequency, and we need to decode exactly what that means in practical terms. Your focus isn't simply mental awareness directed at something or the cognitive act of thinking about a subject. It's actually a vibrational tuner, an instrument that broadcasts specific energetic signatures. Every single time you focus your attention on something, whether it's a desire you want to manifest, a memory from your past, or a fear about your future, you're broadcasting a signal out into the field. That signal carries and embodies a particular vibration, a specific frequency. And here's the key understanding that most manifestation teaching completely misses. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you want in your conscious mind or what you say you desire with your words. It answers exclusively to what you're actually attuned to at an energetic and emotional level. Your focus writes the code, and reality is the projection screen where that code gets displayed. What shows up on that screen, playing out in your day-to-day experience, is determined entirely by what you continuously and consistently feed your attention into, what you marinate your awareness in hour after. That's precisely why two different people can experience completely different lives while living in the same external world, walking the same streets, encountering the same general circumstances. They're not actually witnessing the same reality at all, even though it might appear that way on the surface. Their frequencies don't match or align. Their internal lenses don't see the same things when looking at identical situations. Their observations are coming from fundamentally different energetic states and levels of consciousness, so they're literally collapsing different versions of reality from the field of potential. Have you ever stopped to consider what I call the illusion of neutrality? Here's the hidden pitfall that trips up almost everyone who's trying to shift their reality. You believe in your conscious mind that you're simply witnessing life unfold naturally before you, that you're a neutral observer just taking in what's happening around you without affecting it. But in actual truth, most people aren't neutrally observing anything at all. They are unconsciously reinforcing existing patterns and timelines every single moment. They fixate their attention repeatedly on what's absent from their lives and call that being pragmatic or realistic. They dwell extensively on worst case scenarios and potential disasters and call that being prepared and responsible. They mentally cling to past experiences and keep replaying old stories and call that having a good memory or learning from experience. But when you view all of this through the lens of quantum understanding and the observer effect, every single act of focus is functioning as an instruction to the field, a frequency being broadcast, a magnetic pull that draws matching experiences toward you. You're not just passively observing what's there, you're actively choosing from infinite possibilities what becomes manifest, whether you realize it or not. So, I want you to pause right now and genuinely reflect on these questions. What am I consistently choosing without even realizing I'm making a choice? What mental loops and thought patterns do I unconsciously zoom into and replay over and over throughout my day? What timeline and version of reality have I been unknowingly anchoring myself to purely through the habitual way I observe and interpret everything that happens? Because when your focus stems from fear at its root, when fear is the foundation underneath your attention, you trigger and activate a timeline that reflects that fear back to you in manifest form. When your focus stems from lack, from a sense of not having enough or being enough, you generate experiences that echo and amplify scarcity in every area of your life. But here's the genuine breakthrough moment that's available to you right now in this present moment. You have the inherent power to shift that pattern instantly, not gradually over months or years, but right now. In this very moment, you could consciously redirect your attention toward a version of your life that feels empowered, harmonious, abundant, and aligned with your deepest truth. You could deliberately focus on serenity and inner peace. You could intentionally focus on joy and appreciation for what already exists. You could consciously tune into the energetic signature and feeling tone of already possessing and embodying what you've been asking for and desiring. And the very moment you make that shift, the instant you redirect your focus from lack to abundance, from fear to trust, your inner world begins to transform at a cellular and energetic level. Not because your outer environment suddenly changed, or your bank account got bigger, or your relationship situation resolved itself magically, but because your perception shifted, because you chose a different frequency, because you changed the lens. And that internal pivot point, that reorientation of your awareness and focus, that's the beginning of broadcasting a new vibration, stepping into a new storyline, and accessing a completely new experiential reality. This isn't just abstract theory or wishful thinking dressed up in quantum language. Science actually backs this up with measurable data. Dr. Joe Dispenza has analyzed thousands upon thousands of brain scans of individuals who deliberately and consciously adjusted their focus during meditation practices. The result he documented over and over: when people deeply concentrated their attention on a future vision that was infused with clear purpose, genuine emotion, and specific detail, their brains lit up in the scans as if that imagined future was already their present moment reality. The actual chemistry of the physical body changed in measurable ways. The nervous system moved into balance. Why does this remarkable phenomenon happen? Because the subconscious mind, which is really what's running most of your automatic responses and habitual patterns, genuinely can't distinguish between a lived event that happened in external reality and a vividly observed internal vision, if that internal observation carries enough emotional charge and sensory detail and repetition. The subconscious treats them as equivalent experiences. And the universe operates on the same principle and follows the same rules. It doesn't differentiate between what you're remembering, what you're experiencing, and what you're intensely imagining with full sensory detail. It responds to frequency and feeling, not to the source of that frequency. From passive observer to conscious creator, that's the journey we're on together. Allow this fundamental truth to settle into your awareness and integrate at every level. What you give your attention to consistently, you nurture and feed energy into. What you nurture and feed energy into, you begin to embody and become. What you embody and become, you broadcast as your dominant frequency. And what you broadcast as your frequency determines and creates the reality you experience and live in. So the real question that matters isn't what do I desire or what do I want to manifest. The real question is, what am I habitually focused on throughout my day? Because your focus isn't just a response to life happening to you. It's functioning as an architect of life, actively building and constructing your experience. It operates like a sacred lens that either magnifies and enlarges your fears or projects and manifests the reality you're ready to claim as your own. Most people let their focus operate on complete autopilot without ever examining where their attention habitually goes. They automatically scan their environment for what's wrong or out of place. They replay familiar traumas and disappointments from their past on a continuous loop. They brace themselves for pain and brace for disappointment as a default setting. But imagine this alternative possibility. What if you treated your focus like the sacred tool that it actually is? What if you refined it consciously, aligned it deliberately, uplifted it intentionally throughout your day? You would completely stop looping through outdated realities and timelines and start initiating and activating new ones. You would stop experiencing life through second-hand programming that was installed in your subconscious by other people and start transmitting from your truest frequency and authentic essence. But before we move forward into the next level, I want to invite you into something real and meaningful. If you've been feeling like something's finally making sense as you've been absorbing this information, and if a part of you is genuinely realizing and remembering your own creative power that's been dormant, tap the like button right now if you just had an aha moment. Because like attracts like on every level, including in the algorithm that determines who gets to see this message. And subscribe to this channel, stay connected with this space, and grow with us as we continue exploring the mechanics of conscious creation together. We're about to uncover the one truth that completely redefines everything you think you understand about manifestation and how reality gets created. Because everything you've been told about desire being the key to manifestation, about wanting something strongly enough to make it appear, it's only one small part of the complete equation, and it's not even the most important part. The quantum field doesn't primarily respond to what you want in your thinking mind. It responds to what you perceive and accept as already true in your feeling body and your energetic state. Get ready and prepare yourself, because we're going to break down and expose the real reason things haven't been showing up and manifesting the way you hoped they would, and more importantly, how you can shift that entire pattern instantly starting right now. This may feel a bit uncomfortable to hear, but it's exactly the kind of truth that opens everything wide and removes all the barriers. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you continuously witness and accept as true. Let that settle into your awareness and sit with the implications of it. Because right now, in your current life, you might be doing all the so-called right things that manifestation teachers tell you to do. Speaking affirmations every morning, doing visualizations with detail and emotion, sitting in meditation regularly. But if the feeling and energetic state behind those practices is still fundamentally rooted in lack, in fear, or in a sense of not yet and someday when, then that's the actual energetic message the universe continues to receive and replicate in your experience. It's not because you're unworthy or not spiritual enough or doing something wrong. It's not because the timing is off or you haven't found the right technique yet. It's because your energetic signal, the frequency you're actually broadcasting beneath your conscious words and practices, is still aligned with and tuned to the outdated version of reality, the old identity, the past timeline. Here's the real disconnect that creates that frustrating gap between intention and manifestation. People genuinely desire abundance and financial freedom, but then they view their current finances with stress and anxiety and disappointment. They want love and deep connection, but they look at themselves in the mirror with harsh judgment and criticism. They crave freedom and spaciousness in their lives, but they perceive their current circumstances through a lens of limitation and constraint and not enough. That right there is the misalignment that blocks manifestation. That's the loop that keeps you stuck. That's the gap between the reality you want to experience and the frequency you're actually transmitting into the field moment by moment. Because you're trying to construct a beautiful future while emotionally and energetically anchoring yourself in patterns and feelings from the past. The quantum field doesn't interpret language or parse the meaning of your words. It interprets and responds exclusively to vibration and feeling. It doesn't listen to your affirmations or your conscious declarations. It reads your energy signature, your emotional state, your nervous system's baseline. The energetic and electromagnetic field around your body communicates only in frequency, in resonance, in vibrational alignment. So, when you desire something in your mind but approach it internally with uncertainty, doubt, or the feeling that it's far away and hard to reach, your signal actually says this thing is missing from my life, and the field responds in kind by continuing to reflect that absence back to you. Okay, understood. Let's keep reflecting that it's missing. But when you observe your vision with genuine conviction, with gratitude for it as if it already exists, with the authentic feeling that it's already yours and already real, the field begins to reorganize itself around that new signal. It's not the strength or intensity of your desire that moves reality and collapses probability waves into manifest form. It's the authenticity and alignment of your energetic resonance, the degree to which you can actually feel and embody the reality you're claiming. That's the genuine power of aligned observation operating at full capacity. Let's make this extremely practical and applicable so you can work with it immediately. Imagine you're visualizing and intending financial freedom and abundance in your life. The old loop that most people run unconsciously. You imagine the wealth and abundance in detail, creating beautiful mental pictures and feeling excited about it. But then you check your bank account to see what's actually there, and immediately you feel dread rise up, spiral into worry and anxiety about bills and obligations, contract back into scarcity thinking. That's not energetic coherence at all. It's pure contradiction, and the frequency that wins and gets broadcast most powerfully is always the one you feel strongest and spend the most time in. The new loop that creates actual manifestation. You hold the vision of abundance clearly and feel into it regularly. And when you engage with your current finances, whatever they happen to be, you consciously stay centered in your body and your truth. You say internally with genuine conviction, this is just a moment in time, just one snapshot. I already sense things shifting and changing. I can feel the momentum building. You align yourself with prosperity and abundance, not because the digits in your account have changed yet, but because your frequency and your identity have fundamentally shifted. That kind of observation, that quality of consistent alignment, regardless of current circumstances, that's where the genuine power lives and operates. That's the alignment that actually moves timelines and collapses new realities. And here's what most people completely overlook and miss in their manifestation practice. Observation isn't just about where your physical eyes land or what you're looking at externally. It's about what your belief system is doing when you look, what meaning you're assigning, what feeling you're generating. It all comes down to this core principle. It's not just what you see with your eyes. It's what you believe when you're seeing it. The story you tell yourself about what it means. If your underlying belief when you look at your life is, I'm not there yet, or things never work in my favor, or it's not real until there's physical proof I can touch, then your perception is anchored in a state of waiting and hoping and someday. And waiting isn't passive or neutral like people assume it is. Waiting is actually a frequency, a specific energetic state. It signals delay and postponement to the field. It keeps you locked in a holding pattern, continuously trying to manifest but never really landing the outcome in physical form. Not because your intentions are flawed or your technique is wrong, but because your inner observer, the consciousness that's actually doing the perceiving, is not attuned to and identified with the version of you who already has and embodies what you're asking for. Neville Goddard, one of the greatest teachers of manifestation and consciousness, said it better than almost anyone. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Why did he emphasize the feeling and the assumption? Because when you perceive reality from the outcome, when you look at your life from the perspective of already having what you desire, when you embody the end result in your emotional and energetic state, you align with that specific timeline. You tune to that frequency. But if you view and experience life from the gap, from the sense of lack and distance and not yet, then you keep your desire stuck perpetually in a state of potentiality, always possible but never actual. Here's your pivot point. the exact place where transformation becomes available. The sooner you can observe your vision as already real, as already done, as already yours, the sooner it manifests into physical form and external circumstances. Because life doesn't respond to pursuit and chasing. It responds to presence and embodiment. Life reflects what you are, not what you want. Let's make this tangible with something you can practice immediately. For the next 24 hours, I want you to practice this specific technique. Anytime you think of a goal or desire, anything you're trying to manifest or create in your life, immediately shift your internal lens and observe it as if it's already yours, already complete, already real. When fear or doubt creeps into your mind, trying to convince you it's not possible, meet that fear like it's an old memory from a past version of yourself, not as current truth. Whenever you glance at your life and your circumstances, pause and ask yourself this powerful question. How would the version of me who already lives this desired reality see and interpret this moment? Actually, try it and stay with it. You'll notice an immediate shift in your energy and your state, and the external circumstances will begin to reflect that shift back to you, sometimes within hours or days. Now, you're fully prepared to move to the next level of understanding and application. It's not just about shifting your perspective on individual desires or situations. It's about using your conscious observation to initiate a full timeline change, a complete reorientation of your reality. In the next moments of this journey together, you'll learn the actual mechanism behind collapsing old realities and timelines and stepping fully into the one you've always felt was possible but couldn't quite access before. And once you feel that shift happening within your own consciousness and nervous system, you'll never be able to look at life through the same limited lens again. It's a one-way door, and you're about to walk through it. Here's the deeper truth that needs to land in your awareness right now. You've been observing life unconsciously from a place of anxiety, limitation, scarcity thinking, and inherited identity that was never truly yours. And your current reality in all its details is simply mirroring that unconscious observation back to you with perfect accuracy. But now you understand something profound. Observation isn't just passive perception of what's there. So, how do you become a truly conscious observer? The kind of observer that actually bends timelines and shifts realities. You start with awareness, with simply noticing what's happening in your inner world. Pause regularly throughout your day. Scan your thoughts without judgment. Ask yourself honestly, where does my mind drift when I'm not consciously watching it? What version of reality am I constantly rehearsing on default autopilot when I'm not paying attention? Do I expect miracles and magic and beautiful synchronicities, or do I just expect maintenance and getting by? Because your habitual perspective, the baseline frequency you return to again and again, is the signal the universe keeps syncing with and reflecting back to you in your external experience. Notice the automatic emotional responses that arise in different situations. When you receive a bill in the mail or see a notification about money owed, what's your immediate reaction before you even look at the details? When you consider your future and imagine yourself 1 year or 5 years from now, what mental images automatically pop up without you consciously choosing them? When you sit in silence with nothing to distract you, what stories loop through your mind on repeat? That recognition of your patterns is the opening point, the crack where light gets in, because you genuinely can't recalibrate a frequency you haven't first identified and become aware of. But now that you're seeing it clearly, now that you recognize the patterns, you can begin to interrupt them and shift them, not by resisting them or fighting against them, but simply by choosing again from a different place. Try this intentionally simple yet remarkably powerful shift in your daily practice. When a familiar fear starts to rise in your body and mind, when you feel that old pattern activating, speak aloud with conviction, "That's not who I am anymore." Catch yourself imagining the worst case scenario or rehearsing disaster. Pause that mental movie and redirect consciously with these words. Let's run a better scene. Let's see a different version. Notice your energy and your state slipping back into an outdated version of yourself, that old identity trying to reassert itself, and immediately adjust your physical body in space. Change your breathing pattern deliberately. Recenter your state through movement or sound or conscious breath. These actions and interventions might seem insignificant or too simple to matter, but I promise you they're genuinely transformative at an energetic level. Every single time you disrupt the old signal and interrupt the old pattern, you weaken the well-worn neural pathway and create space and possibility for something fresh and new to emerge. And space is all the quantum field needs to reconfigure itself and collapse a new timeline. Here's where the real leap occurs, where theory becomes lived experience. Close your eyes right now if you're in a safe space to do so. Picture and feel into the version of you who is already living in overflow and abundance, the one who is profoundly loved and cherished, the one who walks through life with clarity and purpose and intention. Ask yourself these questions and let the answers come naturally. How does this version of me move through space? How do they speak and communicate? What do they no longer worry about or give energy to? What naturally captures their attention throughout the day? Now here's the pivotal move that changes everything. View your entire life, all your current circumstances and situations, through their eyes and their perspective. Not from your current self looking forward, hoping to become them, but actually from their vantage point, looking at your life right now. This isn't fantasy or imagination or make-believe. This is permission to step into a frequency that already exists, because that version of you, that upgraded identity, already exists in the quantum field as a real possibility waiting to be collapsed into form. And the moment you begin to observe life from their frequency and their state, you begin collapsing their timeline into your present reality right now, not at some distant future point. Make this a daily ritual that you protect and prioritize. Each morning before the world's noise and demands set in, before you check your phone or respond to messages, sit in complete stillness for just a few minutes. Allow your current identity with all its limitations and fears to dissolve temporarily. Release attachment to the name you call yourself, the story you've been telling about who you are, the past that shaped you. Visualize clearly the future version of you who is already living your vision in full embodiment. Feel their presence as if they are sitting right there with you. Then, imagine yourself moving through your space, but you're inhabiting their body and their energy. Visualize yourself having a conversation, but you're speaking and responding as them. All from that new energetic baseline, that elevated frequency. Hold that perspective and stay in that feeling for just 3 minutes of focused attention. That shift in observation, that conscious choice to see from a different state, it isn't just cognitive restructuring or positive thinking. It's energetic alchemy. It adjusts your frequency at a cellular level. It reprograms your field and your electromagnetic signature. It signals to the universe clearly and powerfully, this is who I choose to be and become. Now here's something crucial to understand so you don't create resistance or make this harder than it needs to be. You don't have to resist or push against your current reality. You don't have to fight with what is or deny that it exists. You only need to sustain conscious observation of a different reality, a different frequency, long enough for it to gain momentum and manifest into physical form. Your life isn't stuck in one fixed position. It's simply attuned to a signal, a frequency you forgot you had the power to alter. But now you remember. You remember your true nature as a conscious creator. And the next time fear resurfaces from the shadows or doubt speaks softly in your mind, or an old narrative tugs at you, trying to pull you back, you'll smile gently and say with knowing, oh, there's the old timeline again, the old frequency trying to reassert itself. But I'm no longer tuning into that channel. I've changed the station. In the comments right now, share one small act or one simple practice you're committing to today, something concrete that anchors you into your new life path and your elevated identity. It could be as simple as one word like breathe, or trust, or open. Your word matters deeply. Your commitment matters, because you matter and your energy affects the field. You've been living inside a script, a predetermined narrative that began long before you realized you were participating in it, long before you became conscious enough to recognize you had any choice. And most of that story, most of the plot points and character traits and limiting beliefs, it wasn't actually authored by you from your authentic essence. It was programmed into your subconscious by family patterns, by cultural conditioning, by trauma and repetition and absorption, all happening without your conscious knowing or permission. You've been watching your life unfold through that inherited lens for years or decades. replaying scenes and patterns you never consciously selected or agreed to, reacting from roles you didn't volunteer to play, reliving cycles that feel familiar and safe but are fundamentally false, not aligned with your truth, but something is shifting now in this very moment. You're becoming lucid and aware in the middle of the story while it's still playing out. And you're reclaiming something profound that was always yours. You're not merely playing a part in someone else's script anymore. You're the one holding the pen and writing the narrative. And your identity, the core sense of who you believe yourself to be, that's the lens that shapes everything you observe, and therefore everything that becomes real in your experience. Let's take this understanding to an even deeper level of practical application. Your identity, which is really the internal narrative about who you believe yourself to be at the deepest level, is the primary lens through which you perceive and interpret reality moment by moment. And as we've already uncovered together, whatever you observe with focus and feeling starts to manifest into form. So, if your identity keeps whispering limiting messages like "I'm not ready for that level," or "I always mess things up eventually," or "I don't deserve better than what I have," or "this is just how I am and I can't change," that limiting belief becomes the filter that's collapsing your reality moment after moment. Not because those beliefs reflect objective truth about who you actually are, but because they feel familiar and safe to your nervous system, and the quantum field doesn't validate truth or falsehood. It simply echoes and reflects back your dominant observation without judgment, without questioning, with perfect precision. You haven't been consciously creating your reality in most moments. You've been unconsciously repeating patterns and identities that were formed long ago. Here's what the vast majority of people never notice or become aware of. They wake up in the morning and unconsciously replay the emotional signature of their past. They feel the same familiar emotional patterns coursing through their body. They narrate the same limiting stories to themselves in internal dialogue. They expect the same kind of outcomes and results they've always gotten. And then they genuinely wonder why their life stays stuck in the same pattern, why nothing fundamentally changes despite their desires and efforts. It's not due to a lack of sincere desire for change or transformation. It's not because they're not trying hard enough. It's because they continue to embody and identify as the version of themselves that originally shaped and created their current circumstances through their past observation and frequency. And the quantum field, which is infinitely intelligent but completely neutral, it doesn't judge your choices or evaluate whether they're good for you. It simply mirrors consistently, precisely, and without any bias whatsoever. Same identity equals same filter equals same narrative equals same outcome, over and over in an endless loop. Now, when you finally make the genuine decision to shift everything, here's the reframe that simplifies the entire process. You don't need to overhaul every single piece of your external life. You don't need to control or micromanage every outcome and detail. You only need to transform the one who is doing the observing, the consciousness behind the eyes, the identity that's interpreting everything. Because when your inner narrator evolves and upgrades, when the frequency of your identity shifts, the external reality has no choice but to adjust and reorganize itself accordingly. It's law, not hope. So, let me ask you this profound question and really sit with it. Who is the version of you who no longer carries that emotional scar from childhood or that past relationship? Who is the version of you who embraces their light and their power without apology or hesitation? Who is the self that expects ease and flow rather than constant struggle and resistance? That version of you, that elevated identity, isn't some distant future self that you might become if you work hard enough for years. It's already present and existing in the quantum field of infinite possibility right now, waiting patiently for you to focus your attention in their direction and align with their frequency. And the instant you start observing your life through their perspective, from their state of consciousness, you initiate the process of becoming them and collapsing their timeline into your present moment. Let's anchor this into a practical shift you can implement immediately, what I call the script break technique. When you notice yourself reacting like the old version of yourself, when you feel those familiar patterns activating in your body and mind, pause everything for a moment. Close your eyes if possible. Take a deep breath. And ask yourself with genuine curiosity, Who's behind this reaction right now? What version of me is responding? What narrative and identity is this tied to? Then immediately follow up with this more powerful question. What would the upgraded version of me, the highest version of myself, see or choose instead in this exact moment? That brief moment of conscious awareness and intentional pause, that's you literally taking back the pen and reclaiming authorship of your story. That's how you exit the old storyline that's been playing on repeat and begin crafting and writing a completely new one in real time. Because identity isn't rigid or fixed like most people assume. It's malleable and flexible. It's multidimensional and responds to focus. And it bends and shifts to match the direction of your focused energy and sustained attention. And now, for the truth that rewrites absolutely everything and changes the entire game. You were never broken or flawed or inadequate in any fundamental way. You were simply witnessing yourself and interpreting your experience through a distorted perspective, through a lens that was cracked and colored by past pain and limiting programming. But once you consciously adjust the lens and choose to see from a higher vantage point, everything in your internal and external world begins to rearrange itself naturally. Your thinking softens and becomes more fluid. Your energy opens and expands. Your nervous system calms and comes into coherence, and your direction forward becomes clearer and more obvious. Because the script you've been unconsciously playing out isn't set in stone or predetermined by fate. It's crafted moment by moment in vibration, in light, in frequency, and in conscious choice. And every observation you make from your higher self, from your most expanded awareness, inscribes a new line in the story and broadcasts a new signal. So now that the pen is back in your hand, now that you remember you're the author and not just a character, it's time to consciously author a new frequency and write a new chapter. If you're still carrying around the imprint of your past identity, if you're still emotionally resonating with who you used to be, then the echoes of that old self will continue showing up in your external circumstances, no matter how much you try to force change from the outside. So, how do you recalibrate your energy so completely and thoroughly to a new reality that it begins to feel natural and automatic rather than forced? How do you embody a new identity so fully that your subconscious accepts it as truth? You're about to uncover exactly what unfolds when focus evolves into genuine alignment, when your vibration becomes a clear declaration to the universe, and when your energy grounds you like an unshakable anchor in the storm. Send this video to that one friend who really needs to hear this message right now. You know exactly who I'm talking about. For you, it might just be sharing a link, but for someone in your circle, it could be the ray of hope they needed today, the permission to see themselves differently and step into their power. And remember, when you share wisdom and spread consciousness, that positive energy ripples back to you and amplifies everything you're working to manifest. You've already realized at this point how genuinely potent your focus truly is. Not just as a mental process you engage in consciously, but as a generating force that shapes reality at a quantum level. Because whatever you observe with sustained attention, you awaken and activate. And whatever you awaken and activate, you start to embody and become. This isn't poetic language or spiritual fluff designed to sound profound. This is the actual science of consciousness and how reality gets constructed from the field of infinite possibility. Now you see clearly with new eyes. Focus isn't just about choosing which circumstances you'd prefer to experience. It's about choosing identity at the deepest level, selecting which version of yourself you're going to be. You're not merely watching reality unfold passively before you like a movie screen. You're actively stepping into and embodying what you keep observing and giving your attention to. Every single day you're alive, you're immersed in and surrounded by endless possible versions of reality existing simultaneously. One timeline where you're standing in your power and creating consciously. One timeline where you feel stuck and victimized by circumstances. One timeline of abundance and overflow. One timeline of survival mode and scarcity. Your focus is the dial that selects which channel you tune into, the decoder that determines which frequency you lock onto, the access point that opens specific doors. The more consistently you lock into peace and presence, the more you literally are peace and presence. The more you focus on growth and expansion, the more your entire energy field expands and reorganizes. And if you keep directing your awareness toward what's absent and missing from your life, you begin identifying as and embodying the version of yourself that always feels incomplete and lacking. This isn't cosmic punishment or some cruel universal joke. It's simply energetic law operating with perfect consistency. Because how you observe life directly shapes your inner state at every level of your being, and your state becomes the energetic template for your external world and what gets reflected back. The mind doesn't actually lead the way like most people assume. Attention and focus lead, and the mind follows. According to Dr. Bruce Lipton's groundbreaking research in epigenetics, it's not your genetic makeup or your DNA that dictates your life path and determines your destiny. It's your perception, the lens through which you view and interpret everything. When you observe reality through the lens of fear and threat, your body immediately enters a stress state, releases cortisol, constricts blood flow, and prepares for survival. When you observe from love and safety and trust, your entire biology shifts into balance and coherence, releasing healing hormones and optimizing every system. And here's the part that should absolutely blow your mind when you really let it land. Your physical brain literally rewires itself and creates new neural pathways based on what you consistently focus on over time. Neuroplasticity, quantum resonance, vibrational reflection, and mirroring. Call it whatever terminology resonates with you, but the result is undeniable and measurable. You're continuously transforming into and becoming the version of yourself. So the real question that matters isn't what do I want to create or what would make me happy. The real question is, who am I willing to become through the way I choose to observe my life moment by moment? Now that you've reclaimed conscious control over your power to observe reality, now that you understand you're not a passive victim of circumstances, it's time to ground that transformation into consistent daily practice. Here's a practical and genuinely transformative method to align with your next timeline and anchor your new identity, what I call the focus loop technique. Morning activation practice. Before you check any messages or scroll through headlines or dive into tasks and obligations, pause in the first moments of consciousness. Sit up in bed or stand by a window, take 3 deep breaths, and ask yourself with genuine curiosity and openness, which version of reality will I consciously choose to tune into today? What frequency will I broadcast? Let the answer come naturally without forcing it. Midday reset practice. Set a gentle alert on your phone for some time in the middle of your day when you're likely to be caught up in activity and stress. When that alert goes off, wherever you are, stop what you're doing for just 60 seconds. Close your eyes if possible. Take a conscious breath and say these words with intention, either aloud or silently. I return to the self I am stepping into. I release the old frequency and choose again. Feel that shift happening in your body. Nighttime integration practice. Before you drift off into sleep, before your conscious mind releases into the subconscious realm, mentally revisit the moments throughout your day when you observed with intention, when you caught yourself and chose differently, when you aligned with your elevated self. Feel sincere gratitude for every single shift, no matter how small it seemed. Let that feeling of appreciation and accomplishment soak into your nervous system and your energy field. This is how you reprogram the subconscious mind through repetition and emotion right before sleep. Repeat this cycle daily, not as a chore you force yourself through or another item on your to-do list, but as a devotion to your own evolution and expansion. Over time, over weeks and months of consistent practice, that elevated version of you that once felt like a distant aspiration becomes your natural baseline frequency. Not through exhausting struggle or constant effort, but through sacred repetition and unwavering commitment to choosing differently. Which part of this message spoke directly to your story and your journey? Comment below right now because I read every single one, and I want to know what's landing for you. Let's turn this into a genuine conversation, not just a one-way monologue where I speak and you passively consume. This right here is the genuine turning point, the threshold between your old life and your new one. You don't need to push harder against resistant circumstances. You don't need to manipulate or control the universe into responding to your demands. You don't need to find the perfect technique or the secret formula that finally works. All you actually need is to observe life consistently through the lens of the identity that matches your highest potential, the version of you that already lives in the reality you desire. Do it consistently without wavering. Do it confidently without second guessing yourself. Do it clearly without muddy mixed signals. Because when your observation transforms into conviction, when you no longer hope but know, the field listens and responds. And when your focus stabilizes in one frequency without constantly bouncing around, your new reality begins to crystallize and solidify in physical form. Now you finally remember who you actually are beneath all the programming. You're not a passive recipient of your surroundings or a victim of random circumstances. You're not trapped in a narrative you didn't author with no way out. You're not meant to endlessly react to external chaos beyond your control. You are the witness who chooses what to observe. You are the chooser who selects from infinite timelines. You are the architect who designs the blueprint of your experience. What you choose to observe consciously sets your frequency and your energetic signature. And that frequency reshapes your entire experience from the inside out, collapsing new timelines and manifesting new circumstances. So, take a deep conscious breath right now. Tune into your body and your energy. Ask yourself right here in this present moment with complete honesty, what am I finally ready to call into existence and make real? Who am I genuinely prepared to embody from this moment forward without hesitation or apology? Because this isn't just the end of a video or a message you consume and forget. This is the opening of a new dimension of possibility, the doorway standing before you leading to your next chapter. The only question is whether you'll walk through it. If you're ready to manifest like never before, if you're ready to step into your power as a conscious creator and stop playing small, comment I'm in right now. Let that declaration anchor into the field and signal your commitment. And here's something I want to share with you as we close this journey together. There's another layer to this that we haven't even touched yet. Something that will take everything you've learned here and amplify it exponentially. In the next video, we're going deeper into the hidden mechanics of timeline jumping, how to recognize when you've actually shifted into a new reality, and the specific signs the universe sends when you're finally aligned with your highest path. This is where manifestation stops being theory and becomes your lived experience every single day. Make sure you click through and watch it next, because what I'm about to reveal will complete the entire picture and give you the missing piece that makes everything click into place. You're not here by accident. You're here because you're ready for this level of truth and this level of transformation. I'll see you there.